Alright guys, so in this video, I'm going to be taking a look back to the mid-90s when MLB came out and said we want to expand from 28 teams to 30 teams. How did Arizona reel in an expansion team? How did they get the Diamondbacks? What were the reasons? Were there any other cities involved? We're going to go over all of it, and then we're going to talk about the current situation with Chase Field and the possible move to Scottsdale, the current status of the Arizona Diamondbacks as they are enjoying a nice little season. They kind of had a blip there after the All-Star break where they really struggled, but they do have some nice, good young players. But going back all the way to the mid-90s with the expansion of the Colorado Rockies and the Florida Marlins in the 1993 season, MLB by 1994 was already looking to expand again and go to 30 teams. On March 2nd, 1994, MLB created an expansion committee to evaluate the feasibility of expansion. Although both Phoenix and Tampa Bay were believed to be overwhelming favorites for the franchises, other cities were invited to bid for the proposed franchises. By June, the league announced that all cities with interest in the proposed franchises should submit their intentions by June 24th. On June 30th, the committee released 9 communities that submitted information to MLB for the proposed franchises. They were Buffalo, Nashville, Northern Virginia, Orlando, Phoenix, Tampa Bay, and Vancouver that had all placed expansion requests. Other cities mentioned as potential expansion locations did not officially submit an application to the league included both Charlotte and Washington. So there's a lot of cities in that list that we're talking about right now, with MLB possibly going from 30 teams to 32 teams, but it was widely considered that both Phoenix and Tampa Bay were the overwhelming favorites to get these two teams. I would liken this situation to the current NBA expansion talks, to where they're talking about, yes, we're going to be expanding in 2025. Yes, we're going to be talking to different cities, but let's be honest, everyone expects that both Las Vegas and Seattle will be the two NBA expansion locations. That's what this was kind of like, where, you know, they say everyone's got a chance. It's kind of like if MLB comes out and announces they're expanding, we all expect Nashville to get a team, but there's going to be a lot of different suitors. We're already seeing it set up with Salt Lake City and some of the other cities also trying to vie for a potential expansion team. But one of the main reasons why Phoenix, Arizona was chosen in the mid-90s, it was a top 20 metro area in the U.S. More specifically, Arizona had a massive built-in advantage with spring training, the Cactus League, happening there for decades at that point. Plus, Arizona is extremely popular in terms of older people retiring, which could also theoretically boost the population. And we have seen Arizona is an extremely popular place to live right now. A lot of residents in Phoenix and the surrounding cities are saying we're closed. It's enough people already, but yeah, the costs in Arizona are crazy right now. Another part of the reason MLB expanded twice in the 90s was to try and keep parity with the numbers of teams and with the same markets as other major sports leagues. Another reason is that it was a period of growing pressure to go into a profit-sharing arrangement or have spending caps the same as other sports. It was felt a greater number of teams would spread out the effects of that if it had happened, which of course it never did. That is a reference to a potential MLB salary cap. We don't even have a salary floor at this point in 2023. So Arizona, up and coming. One of the big advantages, the spring training facilities, the practice league, the massive amount of retirees in that area. It all contributed to Phoenix getting an MLB team, and thus Chase Field construction starting in the late 90s on that. You know, when it comes to my opinion of Chase Field, it is what it is. It does look from the exterior to be very outdated. I'm going to say it did not age well personally. Now, it is a retractable roof, and the idea with Phoenix, Arizona, you're not going to be able to open the thing very much, although they do have a very impressive air conditioning system, and they do have those nice panel windows. When those are open and the retractable roof is open, it does look very nice. Also, it is kind of a weird overhang with shadows, because when it opens, it's a retractable roof. So technically there's still going to be like a certain amount that shadows onto the field, which kind of makes it weird in terms of whenever it's open. But for Chase Field, if you go to a game, there's a 90, especially now with how hot it is in Arizona, there's a 95% chance, unless you're going in early April or late September. But even now, I would say it's going to be pretty much closed throughout the entire year outside of early April, similar to Lone Depot Park, similar to the MLB retractable roofs in Texas. It's like a 95% chance it's going to be closed. That's just how it is. And of course, it doesn't have much to do with humidity in Arizona. It does not have much to do with rain. It is just pure dry heat. It is the same type of climate that Las Vegas is going to be facing. Vegas actually might be a little bit hotter. They're planning maybe a retractable roof, maybe a dome with translucent roof. We'll have to see there. When it comes to the current attendance in Arizona, because the Diamondbacks have played really well, they're very young, I was actually a little disappointed in their attendance this year, I'm not going to lie. So just looking at it, they're ranked 20th. When it comes to MLB attendance this year, there is a massive drop-off after Milwaukee. So you could see Milwaukee at around 31K, and then Cincinnati at 18, just 24, and Arizona's at number 20, just ahead of Cleveland. So maybe a little slight disappointing, although it's not like they're completely horrible. You know, they're not at the way bottom like Oakland. You've got Kansas City. Part of the reason Kansas City is that low, maybe it's due to the stadium location. It's also due to the team just being horrible. Tampa Bay, that's actually an improvement for them at 27. We'll see if they end up relocating. But right now, the main rumor around Arizona, well, first, let's just go to their team history, because this is a very unique thing for an expansion MLB team. They start off in 1998. Of course, they're not going to be very good. They lose 97 games. The next year, they win 100 games. And then 2 years after that, they win the World Series, and then they make the playoffs again, winning 92 games. And you can see, unfortunately for them, after the early run, it's been really brutal. They ended up losing 111 games in 2004. They've made the playoffs sporadically. They had the Paul Goldschmidt era, which unfortunately for them, just a bunch of losing, bunch of bad records. They got the #1 overall pick in like 2014 and drafted Dansby Swanson. They ended up losing 110 games. I'm guessing that's the draft. They got Drew Jones, but you can see they're a little bit better. They're 7 games above 500, possibly fighting for a wild card spot. The NL West is very brutal with the investments that the Padres have made. They've been a disappointment this year, but still, that's an extremely talented team. And then, of course, the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers, they have the payroll, and they also have the analytics department. They've also got the good GM. When you combine all those things, when you're the most rich and you know how to spend your money, you get a team like the Dodgers where they're a powerhouse every single year, and they should be. They've got a bigger payroll than basically everyone outside of the New York Yankees, and also now the Mets. But either way, that is just the history of the Diamondbacks kind of coming back. They've got good young talent, Corbin Carroll, decent good young pitching. But in terms of their future, they're born in 1998. We have seen a few different renderings. These are very, very early renderings. I don't think this is at all what it would actually look like. It kind of looks like they just took the Chase Field model and moved it into the side of like a desert rock formation and kind of changed a few things. But this is the potential stadium that would be located in Scottsdale, Arizona. And what I think is going to happen when it comes to Chase Field, it's very obvious the ballpark at this point is out of date. You know, a lot of people rank Chase Field mid-20s, high 20s, you know, meaning it's one of the worst stadiums in MLB. And we're hearing by the day at this point, different teams making demands. I would guess that the ownership situation for the Arizona Diamondbacks would come out and say, look, we might consider moving if we don't get this tax package funded by the general public to get a big-time renovation. And I think if they did renovate Chase Field, it would be a significant amount of money. I think it would be $400 or $500 million for a renovation of Chase Field right now. If they want to prolong its life for another 20 years, if it gets really ugly and they actually do move to Scottsdale because they think it's a better location and they just want to start over with a new stadium, I would imagine honestly, they might not even go retractable roof. It's the thing that Las Vegas is currently trying to cipher through. Do you go with some hybrid retractable roof where like half of it stays closed no matter what, and then you open up like the outfield area? Or do you just go with some type of translucent roof that doesn't open with a window? Because let's be honest, they are running into a problem with MLB stadiums in these hot climates where they're just never open. So the retractable roof, it's going to cost you an extra $300,000, you know, depending on what other roof you use. Is it really worth it at this point? We'll have to see what ends up happening, but this story is really just starting. The idea that, you know, Arizona needs these renovations. There's been kind of rumors that they're going to try and push for them. Maybe they'll leverage possibly moving to Scottsdale as a way to get these. But either way, I don't think Arizona is going to lose their MLB team. But the attendance has been a little bit lacking. Still, it's not like Arizona is this powerhouse and their attendance is ranked 20th. That would be a bad sign. If Arizona was like 25 games over 500 and their attendance was that low, that'd be an issue. But they're really not a powerhouse. They're 7 games above 500. They're a younger team that's growing, and we will have to see how good they end up getting. It is tough for them being in the NL West, although I will say the schedule makers, the MLB switching the format definitely did them some favors. They don't have to face the Dodgers 19 times a year. That should help considerably. But that is the history of the Arizona Diamondbacks getting a team, you know, going into that round of expansion. MLB moving from 28 to 30 teams. They were a massive favorite. Tampa Bay had been in rumors for almost a decade at that point about getting different relocation teams. Kind of reminds you of the situation that Nashville is in, where anytime any team says they might relocate, Nashville is always the first option. It was the same thing with Tampa Bay in the 90s, and instead of relocation, remember, Tampa Bay already had Tropicana Field built in 1991. This is the mid-90s, so they were ready for a team. It's kind of funny how bad Tropicana Field turned out. They were trying to flex like, we got a stadium ready. Oh yeah, you do, certainly. But, you know, this was a situation. Both Phoenix and Tampa Bay were the massive favorites to get teams due to their bigger metro areas, due to Arizona hosting spring training, and also the population in Phoenix. So guys, that is going to do it for this video when it comes to the Arizona Diamondbacks expansion team. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.